All right, it is 6 o'clock. Thank you all for joining us tonight. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we do have two members that are coming in on Zoom tonight, so both Lauren and Matt will be joining us via Zoom, and I'm a little rusty at running meetings, so bear with me as I get used to doing this while Matt is currently not able to. So, board members, have you had a chance to look at the agenda for this evening? I don't believe there's any changes or additions at this time. Is there a motion?
Motion to adopt agenda.
Seconded.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the agenda has been adopted. Now we will move to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Board Director Davidson, other board directors, student representatives, staff, community members. I have a state of the district. It's a long presentation, so I'm going to keep it short. I did want to highlight, last week I was over at Shelton High School, had a great opportunity to see NJROTC do their annual military inspection. So we have about 100 students that participate in NJROTC. It was outstanding to watch them go through their traditional movements and to demonstrate their command with pretty much their guns and the walkthrough. Able to hand out medals to them. Just impressed with just the discipline that those particular students demonstrate, all the character development that they have and the leadership. It's quite an honor to see them. Huge fan of the military forces myself. And so I just feel blessed that I was able to be there with family members, staff, and of course our students. So thank you so much for the invitation. Quite an honor. And I just proud of our students for all the work they do and take into the work they do around NJROTC. I know they have a performance coming up down in Battleground, so I'm looking forward to hearing how they do. They usually do very well in place. I do have this evening a introduction. We have a new executive director of finance. His name is Clinton Sherman. Clinton, if you could stand. Clinton is coming to us from the Richland School District. He has worked in finance for now over 20 years in school districts in Eastern Washington. And so I'm glad to have him come on board and in replacement of Brenda Trogstad. So Clinton's come with a lot of energy. I think he's been on the job for almost exactly 2 weeks, I believe, right? Clinton, yep, jumped right into it. Have a lot of things going on for it. I'll be talking about finances. It is a very tough fiscal period right now for districts all across Washington State. Having somebody with experience specifically in Washington State around finances is really key. It's something that we were looking for. And Clinton was very interested in specifically coming to the Shelton School District. He saw our strategic plan. He's actually a couple of years ago because they were doing one in Richland. And then has seen some of the great moves that we have made in relation to our strategic plan and outcomes for students. So with that, just thanks a lot, Clinton. You'll hear from him. He'll be presenting later. So with that, I'll turn it back to the board. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, next up is community comments. As part of the regular school board meeting, the board welcomes community members to make public comments in person and/or by phone as conditions allow. Please see the full script with call-in instructions and guidelines for community comments displayed on the screen above. And the first person that I've got listed here is Dean Jewett.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me be here. I'm going to start and end with what's best for kids. Something I'm just going to keep preaching because that's what you guys all need to understand in every single decision that you make. What's best for kids? And if you can't get the right answer to that, then you shouldn't be making any decisions. We've got a bloated administration. I'm just kind of curious, with 14 teachers, if we were able to cut 6 admin positions, we'd probably be able to keep all 14 of those teachers. What was it, 2-3 years ago, maybe 4, that we hired 6 admin positions to the tune with the salaries and the benefits. It was like $1.1 million. So are those positions needed? Do we need them? I don't know. Are they in front of kids? Are they making a big difference? Are they the teachers? If they're not, boom, get rid of them. What's it going to do when you get rid of the teachers? What's it going to do to the class sizes? Wyeth, you're a mathematician. You went to college. What's it going to happen? We're going to go from 30 students to 40? How are you going to take care of that? How are you going to control your bullying? Where is the true leadership? We have a superintendent that goes and requests an increase, and not even a week or two later gets ready to lay off his teachers. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, especially when that individual was hired with the requirement of living in Mason County, rented a little house out in Union, now he lives in Seattle. We've got multiple lawsuits, we've got budget shortfalls, we've got delinquent bills, we've got a spending freeze. Culture of any organization is set from the top down. So what kind of culture does the Shelton School District have? You guys all know, look it up. We got stabbing on a bus. We got a fight at OBJH where the video was released. The superintendent was supposed to contact parents and forgot. So how can you release a video that's taken in private so that it ends up on Facebook, and then the parents aren't even aware of it? It's pretty sad. We just hired a financial officer from Richland, where in September they report a $7.7 million budget deficit. Wow, nice job. Thanks, guys.
Carrie Bell.
Hi, I'm Carrie Bell, 6261 East McReevy. I have 3 kids in the district, you know, there's a lot of things that seem really tough right now, and I know it's tough for everybody and a lot of things like that, but the biggest thing that I do see is the teachers need more support in the classrooms. The paraeducators that are getting hours turned off and different things like that, and the potential of teachers taking a salary cut now even, and some of this stuff. But you notice a lot of behavioral issues in the classrooms, and the teachers can't teach. The teachers are spending too much time dealing with behavioral issues. The administrators don't know what to do with them, and there's a bunch of stuff and that kind of stuff. So it seems really hard for teachers to actually teach nowadays. Seems like they're spending too much time dealing with behavioral issues, and there's no consequences to the kids or the parents or anybody else that's trying to, you know, and then the kids that are good and doing it are getting left behind, or they're not getting enough time, and then things are getting fallen through the cracks. So with that, I just think like same thing, you know, from the top down, I think the teachers within the schools and the ones that are in the classrooms need more support. The other thing that I did want to say is when I was here 2 weeks ago at the last board meeting, the junior high principal, I don't know her name, I'm sorry, but she made a really good point about extracurricular activities and sports, and that being a reason for kids to want to come to school. We always talk about attendance and the things about needing to get kids here and stuff like that. So when we talk about budget cuts and things like that, usually the extracurricular activities and the sports and the things like that are the ones that get dropped first. So I just want to bring up that point again. I thought she made a great point about that of attendance is higher with kids that play sports. They're here, they want to be here, and it gives them a good reason to be here. So if we can think about that when we talk about budget cuts and other things like that, If attendance is so important, give the kids a reason to want to be here. And I think sports and extracurricular activities make a big deal with that stuff. So, thank you.
Marilyn Aaron?
Sure, by now you guys are tired of hearing from me, but I'm not going anywhere, so. In section 503 of tonight's agenda, the superintendent will present the state of the district under the SWOT analysis. Among the strengths highlighted are hiring and retention of effective educators and leaders, and focusing on the implementation of the strategic plan. The strategic plan clearly states that a key priority is the investment in effective educators and leaders. Specifically, the plan aims to recruit, hire, and retain caring, compassionate, and skilled employees to support student success. As stated, student success depends on having dedicated, skilled educators who can provide quality teaching and meaningful student support. The plan emphasizes that attracting and retaining effective educators is critical for preparing students for life after high school. But there is a major contradiction between the strategic priority and the actions being taken. While the strategic plan promotes investing in staff, the superintendent is simultaneously asking teachers to take significant reductions in pay, far more than he is willing to sacrifice himself. How can we claim that we value our teachers and expect to retain effective educators when you are actively removing incentives that are essential to keeping them motivated and committed? How can we claim to value and invest in our staff if we are cutting their compensation and increasing their burden without sharing in those sacrifices? How can you expect to retain effective educators when you are actively removing incentives that are essential to keeping them motivated and committed? Oh, that's right. You can't answer me. Sorry. The primary responsibility of the superintendent is to ensure the financial viability of the district. If this is not achieved, all other goals become irrelevant. It is imperative that the superintendent has a comprehensive understanding of the district's budget, accurately predicts future financial needs, and allocates resources accordingly. If the superintendent is unable to fulfill this fundamental responsibility, we must ask ourselves, what is the purpose of having a leader who is not capable of managing our district's financial health? By now, I would hope you're aware of the MOU and the teacher contract negotiations. Our SEA president, who seems to have taken on an administrative role herself, may need a reminder that it is essential for her to remember her roots as a teacher. The most vital role in ensuring student success. The document presented to teachers is not merely an MOU, it is quite honestly a negotiation on their contract. Teachers should be treating this document with the gravity it deserves. I strongly urge every single teacher in the Shelton School District to vote no on this MOU, as it represents a serious negotiation, not a mere agreement. So if you look at the budget and the costs that were proposed, and I'm out of time, so I'll email you.
All right, that looks like that's it for public comment, unless there's anybody that's online where you're not seeing anything online. Okay, that is it for public comment this evening. We're going to go into reports and recognitions. And I always like our first report because it comes from our student board representatives. So thank you both for being here tonight. We're going to start with you, Alan, if you don't mind giving us your school report.
Yeah, so we had some exciting things going on at Cedar. One thing I forgot to mention last school board meeting was our Veterans Day assembly that we had.
Yeah.
We actually had it like a week before Veterans Day actually happened. And we had a grand total of, I think it was 9 veterans show up for that day. And we just sort of had a little Q&A session where they got to really have pretty personal conversations with our students. And they all seemed to have a pretty fun time. Most of the veterans were actually very local to here. They were from, like almost next to like the laundromat next to Domino's, the Veterans Club. Some of the people were from there, very local veterans. We also, yesterday we had our ECP project thing, and I'd say it went pretty well. We got to show off some of our school's greatest projects. We had a great turnout from our students and also community members. And it was also put on by teachers and students collaboratively. We worked together to set up the entire day. And we also are planning to have our culture day once we come back from Thanksgiving break. And on Thanksgiving, well, not Thanksgiving break, but tomorrow, we're gonna have a little Thanksgiving Day celebration at our school. We're gonna have a turkey trot. We're gonna have a breakfast for all the students. It's gonna be a great old time. And for Indigenous Heritage Month, we've been consistently outputting we call it an Indigenous Cafe, where we put in traditional Native American recipes for all the students to enjoy. It's been pretty fun. We've had some speakers too.
Well, thank you for your report. Did Cedar wrap up their finals this week as well? Or was it your projects that you were basically presenting? Okay, great. Well, thank you, Alan. Kaylee, do you have a report for us?
We held our ASB officer elections and we got our results. And then we soon plan to hold our student representative for the classrooms. And then we had our annual Friendsgiving last Thursday where we all came together and the staff made homemade cooked meals for everyone and, kind of had like a traditional Thanksgiving for those who don't celebrate. And then lastly, we have our winter festival coming up that we do annually. It's going to be held on December 19th from 5 to 7 p.m. and it's open to everyone. Everyone can come. There's going to be hot dogs, hot cocoa, arts and crafts, and pictures with Santa. I welcome you all to come if you can.
Great, thank you. That's held at Choice. I think I've seen a number of posters around even Mountain View when I was walking in, so you guys are doing a good job of advertising that winter celebration. Thank you both for your student reports. We are going to go into item 5.02, which is the Evergreens Shelton Promise, and we've got Chelsea Brady and Munir. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name. Munir. Thank you.
Good evening, board directors. I'm very excited to share with you about an amazing opportunity for our community and for our students. When something seems just too good to be true, it's going to sound that way. I promise you, it is a true, real golden opportunity for our students that we're very excited to share with you tonight. So Evergreen College has established the Shelton Promise. See if we can, there we go. Has established the Shelton Promise. This promise is a simple and direct offer to 2025-2026 Shelton School District graduates for free tuition for 4 years of college. Free tuition. You see why this sounds too good to be true? There is more. So not only do they get free tuition for 4 years of college, students will also be awarded additional funding for housing, books, and living expenses. So the actual amount that they receive is based on a sliding scale, it's based on need, but all students will qualify for additional funding on top of all of their tuition being paid. Students will also be provided support and advising throughout their time in high school, and then that support will continue all the way through their time in college and through completion of their degree. This type of support includes navigating applying to college, the FAFSA, registering for classes, advising while they're on classes, or while they're on campus, and much more. So I'd like to introduce you to Munir Fateme. She was hired as the Shelton Promise Program Director by Evergreen State College, so she will share a little bit more about how students can be part of this amazing opportunity.
Hi, thank you for having me tonight. I'm Munir Fateme. Everyone calls me Mo, that makes it easy. So I'm here from Evergreen State College, and again, this seems too good to be true, but it really is true. With support of the legislature, we've created this opportunity to give 2 years, or 2 grad years, 2025 and 2026, 4 years of free tuition and fees. Like she said, we're calling it a grant on top of that to support housing or just cost of living, and then targeted support, starting now all the way till they graduate with a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science. So to qualify for this, you just have to graduate in 2025 or 2026 from this school district, have a 2-point grade point average or above, complete the college requirements. These align with your high school graduation requirements, and there's a little wiggle room, so it's a really easy requirement to meet. Do our application, which we have already opened, already started to see applications roll in, which is really exciting to announce. Just today I saw that we have over 20 just interest forms and a handful of applications started. So that's super exciting because it means that people are really thinking about this already. And then submit the FAFSA or the WAFSA, and that's it. It's pretty simple. And then from there, we just help you choose your classes and figure out the needs and supports you need to be successful once you come.
So the application fee is waived. Mo has been coming and working with students. She's willing to work with families to sit down to go through the application. So the FAFSA being filled out is a requirement, but regardless of income, your tuition is free. So that's another exciting part. So the intent of this partnership was to remove barriers specifically for our school district, for our students, to accessing post-secondary education. So the data tells us that only 31% of our Shelton School District graduates attend college. Only 1% is attending Evergreen. So we want to increase those numbers. That is the goal of this, and so that we can remove barriers for students to attend college. We know that 70% of family wage jobs in Washington require a post-secondary credential, and that those that earn a bachelor's degree actually have an 86% higher income than those with a high school diploma. So we want this opportunity for our students. Evergreen is close to home. Students can live on campus and travel home, or they can live at home and drive to school. So the closeness will be, obviously, we hope will attract many students. And with so many different fields of study and degree opportunities, we think that our students will really be able to see themselves on campus. They are college ready and can be college degree earning students. So we're very excited about this partnership. We're working together right now on just the plan to get it out there, because we know it really does sound too good to be true. So we want to make sure people understand, yes, free college for graduates this year and next year, hoping to continue to grow it from there, which is why we need to get as many kids as we can. And so Mo has already visited all 3 of our high schools. She's already met with students. She's talked with all of the seniors. So we're continuing to create a coordinated plan to get it out there in front of students and families. So we were excited to share about this with you tonight. Are there any questions?
Yeah, go right ahead if you, and then I'll check in with our online.
College, so where does the money come from?
Okay, so it uses existing state and federal funds, and then it's a gap fill. So through doing the WAFSA or the FAFSA, we find out what grants the student already qualifies for. Any scholarships that student has earned would be applied. Any remainder would be paid by the college with the help of the legislature.
So the legislature has given Evergreen a grant?
So it's not a grant, but it's a pilot program, and it's funded for 2 years, but no matter whether it's continued or not, this funding has been secured for those 2 cohorts to see through for 4 full years. So there's no guarantee this will continue to be offered to graduates of 2027 based on how much interest there is, but regardless of what happens there, the commitment is solid for any 2025 and 2026 Shelton grads who enter the program to have that funding all the way through.
And is it only Shelton High School, or you just pick Shelton?
It's It's the 3 schools in Shelton School District. There were a few reasons why Shelton was picked. Part of it is because of some of the numbers when we looked at rural schools in neighboring communities to Evergreen. Evergreen is a state college, and we should support and reflect our local community. And so acknowledging that there was an achievement gap when it came to post-secondary opportunities, we wanted to remove that barrier. There's also a really beautiful Venn diagram between Evergreen State College and Shelton, which is community give back. People want to support their communities, learn, and then invest in our community, and we just saw this being something that would benefit the college, Shelton, and really just all of our local communities here.
So if the kids apply for these FAFSA and stuff, loans,
They're not loans. So this will help them establish a budget. It helps them figure out what grants they qualify for. And then by us coming in and doing the gap fill, we're assuring that they do not have to take loans. That is our goal, is so that we can't. Any college would ask for the FAFSA as a requirement,
Yeah,
but we're going to kind of step
I
in
know.
and just make sure that loans are not necessary,
all right, thank you.
ideally.
Okay, let me check in really quick with Matt and Lauren, because we don't see you on the screen. Do either one of you have questions or comments?
I'm just really excited and grateful for this opportunity for our students, and I really hope that at graduation this year we see lots of kids headed to Evergreen and really taking advantage of this opportunity.
Thank you, Lauren. Matt, do you have any comments
Can you
at
hear
this time?
I'm just excited for the program, and with it being based on our achievement and things like that in the past, my hope would be that we're able to close these gaps and eventually not qualify for this sort of a thing. It is great, however, and thank you very much for heading this up, Mo.
Yeah, thank you so much. It seems like a great opportunity. And I know if I'm a parent listening, I don't always trust my high schooler to bring the information home. So if somebody's listening right now says, hey, I want to get in there and I want to get working on that and applying, where do they go? Where's that information so they can jump right on it?
So I've connected with counselors at every school, so theoretically they can connect to the counselors. There's these nice Evergreen rack sheets that have been littering around your community. You can also check out our website, Evergreen edu, and then you just put the Promise, Shelton Promise, it'll take you right there. And everything, when you connect to that, connects to me pretty much. So you'll be directly working with me.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for, a website. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for the presentation. Even when I first heard about it, just reading through the packet, it does sound too good to be true, and I did want clarification, like, is this just for a year or two of college? But it is for all 4 years for those 2 graduating classes specifically. So thank you for explaining all of that. I think it is a really exciting opportunity. I know we've got kids that are college ready, and maybe there are barriers, and this is going to open up that pathway for many people to have this as an opportunity. So thank you for the partnership with the Shelton School District, and I look forward to hearing how this all continues on and how many kids we have that get to go take advantage of this. So thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, now we move on to 5.03, which is the state of the district with Superintendent Jesse.
Great. Good evening. I got quite a lot of content to cover this evening, and so I will not be covering every word for word, trying to hit the highlights so that I leave time for questions that the board may have around this information. Oops. Okay. So the agenda, going through, this is the regular format that I use to help provide information about where our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are, a number of our measurable wins so I can highlight those. Again, going over the strategic plan, where are some specific things that we are up to right now, knowing that we are into year 3 of the strategic plan. And then organizational chart, provide an update around our budget and staffing, and then student performance measures. Okay, so the number of strengths that we have, I'll highlight a lot of those in a little bit of our measurable wins. Some of the things that we have going on for us that I think is really important is our hiring and retention of effective educators and leaders. We put a lot of time and effort into it. We've moved up our hiring timelines. We moved up our overall budgeting process so that we can know what generally our enrollment projections are. And student enrollment does drive revenue and ultimately the number of educators we need. State has regulations and requirements specific for class sizes K through 3 that we need to follow, and as well as our effective model to supporting all our students that also qualify for other categorical programs. We have an increase in student participation in learning activities. I'm out in schools every Thursday and able to see all the strategies that our educators are performing. I know some of them are in the crowd. I've seen some of those strategies that really are effective in bringing out student voice. I think it's really good to empower them. That's part of a major belief that we have underneath our strategic plan, that we heard that from our students and our families and our staff. Able to go into class, watching students share their learning and their knowledge, not only with their teacher, but also with each other. And then the last one here is the developing college and career pathways. We continue to do a lot of work, especially around our academy model. We do have project-based learning over at Cedar, which has worked very well in engagement. We have an increase in enrollment. We've been around 80 students. We now have 100 students at Cedar. And then Choice, also in partnership with both Cedar and Choice, they do a lot of work, especially for freshmen and sophomores. And then some of the expanded course opportunities, they can take a bus and transfer over to SHS and also to Cedar if they want to take some of those additional courses. So it's been something. When I got here, all 3 high schools worked in silo. Now we have opportunities for the 3 high schools to work in coordination with one another for shared learning opportunities. So we have a number of weaknesses. We covering things around funding. I think it's a little bit less than a decreasing in state funding as much as it is just today's dollars are not the same. So we have pretty much the basic same staffing, same work that we've been, same staffing, same services in general for the things that we're doing around providing educational services in their district. But those dollars for basic ed do not stretch as far. So when you have funding that increases by generally $2 million in the overall budget each year, our staffing costs and our additional operational costs far exceed that. And so I'll be highlighting some of the areas that we've had increased costs. We know that we want to establish written procedures. We've been working on a number of areas. Human resources is one of our areas that we'll be working on, as well as budget. We've written in a number of procedures for staff and specifically the building leadership teams to build their budgets out, but we want to make sure that we can help them about what it is that they need to help put in for specific requests. And then also sometimes they exchange dollars for other needs that they have at their school site. And then the last one is also hiring specifically for staff who speak Spanish, Mom, or Concabal. We have a number of our students. It's really helpful. I hear that from our staff and our school leaders. If we could have some more staff that speak one of those 3 languages, it really helps us work not only with the students, but the families as well. Already just working on the heels of Evergreen State, Shelton Promise. I think that is a big deal. I think a couple things that weren't, I think, highlighted that I didn't hear was that there's 150 of those kind of programs around the nation. So we are not the only ones with a Shelton Promise, shall we say. Number of institutions, whether they're public or private, do those kind of relations where they make deals specifically with communities that are trying to raise the number of students who have access and opportunity to a 4-year institution. They do that. They do have rolling admissions, so if any families out there or students are listening, it is rolling admissions for Evergreen State. So I think that's always key too, because deadlines seem to loom. Feels like a lot of pressure for students and families to get things in on time. It is rolling admissions at Evergreen State. And then there are going to be a number of specific events to help draw awareness so that staff, students, and families can come to those. I know Director Dale, you were mentioning that for families. So it'll be publications put out there and welcoming family. I think we were looking for somewhere around the middle or end of January for one of those events, so a kickoff event. What another opportunity, Evergreen Elementary, well, they've had an increase in student performance, specifically around ELA. We want to do some additional work there. I think it's a great opportunity for us to look at how we're serving our students. I will still be on the record to share that I think students whose primary language is Mama-Kankable, dual language, is not the best appropriate service for those particular students. You do need a command about a language before you start to try to learn English and Spanish on top of Mama-Kankable. So we'll be working more around how can we best serve those specific students and all students who attend Evergreen. And then the last one is utilizing data to drive decision making. We've been increasingly using that. Our school leaders and our staff have dug in deep on that. We've had a number of trainings with the building leadership teams, and they continue to rise to the occasion and are taking advantage of it. We want to support that effort. As I like to say, all school districts are generally fragile. Things are really tough. Swings can happen for a number of reasons. The cycle of general funding, financing for schools, in my 25 years has gone up and down. We are in one of those cycles where it is going to be tough. But unlike other ones where it is generally announced up front about a decrease in general funding, this is where inflationary pressures have taken hold, right? And so some of the bills that have come in, and I'll highlight some of those, are not always what we budget for. The actual costs can sometimes be a real surprise, specifically things like utilities and substitute costs. We do want to retain novice teachers. We do invest heavily into them. They provide a lot of training, a lot of paid training for our novice teachers. They come on board. They're invested into the Shelton School District, our students and our families, and so we'll continue to look at that. And then lastly, we want to continue to secure a culture of rigor and high expectations. We know that every student who walks the door, we want to make sure that we are providing them the best education we can and making sure that we obviously offer the services to meet or exceed their potential. Done a lot of good job about that, but I think I want to just highlight we never want to let go of those expectations for them and for ourselves. Measurable wins. So third grade ELA scores this last year are 18 points higher than they were 2 years ago. That's district-wide. If you think about what that really means for us, I think I'd highlight that that's 60 students that now meet or exceed grade level standard in ELA in third grade right here in the district. So we have 60 families out there that get a chance to turn around and know that their student is at grade level or exceeding grade level in reading and writing. That's outstanding. We have a decrease in discipline also for the last 2 years by 71%. Our educators came together this summer on word work, and I'll highlight a little bit about later on. We have we've started now 20-hour internships. I was able to see one of our first interns at the Mason Economic Development Committee, they're doing an internship there, specifically around some of the marketing for businesses and development here for Mason County. So that was really nice to see her present. We hired 11 certificated staff members by April 12th and 21 by May 8th out of our 33 certificated staff members we hired for this school year. Again, when I got here, a majority of our educators were hired in August. It's a really hard time to come in and set up your classroom and get some of the professional development for you. So we're really excited about moving up our hiring, getting them on board, and getting them trained and oriented to whatever position they are hired in the district. Huge redesign of summer program that we, in the past, It was not standards focused. We really tried to work on reading and writing and some math instruction for all the students that did attend. Saw really powerful instruction. We had a lot of rewards for them in partnership with some of our local community organizations. So I just think that's a huge win, watching kids attend, be able to share their reading and writing skills. It was outstanding. A lot of celebration right here in this gym, actually right here at this, right on this direct site. And families were able to come and celebrate with their students. So I think that's really excited. And then we continue to offer a 4-day professional development summit for all certificated staff on a whole bunch of instructional moves related to our strategic plan. So those are huge wins. I don't think we celebrate enough here of all the things, the hard work that the staff and the school leaders have performed. This is a tremendous accomplishment. So I really just think for some of the staff that are out here in the crowd and those that are listening in, great work. It has led to outstanding outcomes for our students. As I was mentioning before, the word work, our educators got together this summer and really built out specifically instruction for phonics, vocabulary, and fluency. Really very technical work, but very rewarding. I think their collective genius was empowering. A lot came through on that, and then we were able to roll that out district-wide and provide training on it. And so it's our first year rolling out. And some of the reasons for that is that we can see at their later grades that students were still missing some of those foundational skills in those areas, and so we wanted to get to our students earlier. Again, it's first year, so a lot of it's, for a lot of our educators, are just getting trained in it and becoming comfortable in it, and then the years coming up will just get easier. But the way it was laid out, again, by our own staff, is really accessible. So the material's already there, they're already laid out, and then it goes through a progression that it best meets not only the needs of our teachers, but it really is for our students. Of course, anything that we needed to adapt on that, we will do so. Next is safe and welcoming environments. We do still do our orientation sessions before the year. That was a huge call out by our students and families, really wanting something when students were coming to the new school or new school year. We have our non-highs that come to the district as well. And so what is it like to send my student to the Shelton School District? We provide usually a multi-day experience providing that. I thought it was really nice this evening from our student representatives, both in Kaylee and Alan, about some of the warm and welcoming stuff that you're doing just this week about bringing and building community. That's exactly where it starts, right, is building out relationships, trust, and then also ability to build your pro-social skills, as I like to say. When we hear things like, oh, this student is particularly bullying, or this particular threat is happening for another student, those at the end are behaviors are telling us that a lot of our students need help around pro-social skills, whether that's self-management strategies, whether that's how to engage other students or to communicate when they are challenged and how to handle it. We, on our side as educators, are responsible for helping to educate our youth so that they can be more productive citizens. The college and career readiness, I was highlighting the work-based program. I know that we, in our internships, or 20-hour internships, I believe when I was here in Gretchen, I got a little bit over here with Chelsea, I think we are almost headed to something like 80 planned separate internships. It might not all happen this year, but we do so far in our planning and rostering are now already, just in something that we started this year, already up to 80 separate 20-hour internships. I think that's outstanding. I think when we couple that with things like Evergreen Shelton Promise, I think we couple that with the Freshman Academy that's now in its second year and a tremendous success for oriented students to just life, but also about career exploration, pathways, friendships. Those are really powerful things for our students. And I think when I show you some of the results for 9th grade on track, you can see why that is. But yet, again, in our graduation rate, which has had a slight dip, it tells us that we have more work to go, right, in this particular area. Lots of success, I think, is going to pay off now. We see that with our 9th graders, and I think we'll see that coming up when they, in 3.5 years, graduate. Last one is investing in effective educators and leaders. We have standardized our hiring process. We have a new platform for applying for a job. Before, our platform was really difficult to apply for a job. It was very cumbersome. It's one of the things I heard from a lot of our educators, like, could you fix that? Can you fix the platform or how we go ahead and hire in some of our orientation? So we invest a tremendous lot in that, a lot of our help from our teacher leaders and our school leaders in building out that process so that we can get and recruit the best folks, get them on board, and again, get them oriented for their work here in Shelton. Like any successful learning organization, you do have to have coherence. It does start with our strategic plan. That relates to our own internal goals. So every department in this district does have goals. We work through project management, and there is shared accountability for each department. We set up those goals so that they align to help supporting Shelton's success. So like you could hear human resources, so that means Tabitha, the head of HR, she'll set up goals for all the people in her department. She'll plan backwards all the activities that she has to do to make sure that we are successful in not only hiring but orienting employees, but also building out some of our procedures so that they are more easier for the folks that are out in the schools. And then we have our school improvement plans. All the school leaders have presented them. You can see it's the same standardized form we have. You can see the goals that are aligned right to the strategic plan. You can see the actions that are supported not only in the plan, but the professional development that we have. Each month we have a specific instructional focus. We provide guidance, orientation, and training in all three of those three forms, and then additional coaching as school leaders get out into classrooms. That should lead to student success. That is our through model that we have. And again, I think I'll be able to highlight some of our successes and also areas that we have to continue to focus and improve on in a little bit on student performance. So this year's organizational chart, we have some folks that were replacements. So up here, we had underneath in the middle, Executive Director of Finance. Clinton is now the new person for that. And then if you go down and you can see Director of Transportation, we have Caleb Friend. So he is our Director of Transportation for that. And then we also have to the right of that, at the bottom underneath Executive Director of HR, you go to the bottom, Technology. Ben is our new Director of Technology as well. The rest of those folks up there are the same people, except for the Director of Student Wellness. We had Lisa Murkison leave us, and now we have Dusty Trickle replace that. So there are no new jobs. We've removed 6 positions out of district office, including the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning. I took on the supervision of the principals in addition to the other folks up there, and some of the other 5 other positions, again, that we have cut in addition to just because of the constraints of our budget. School enrollment and budgets. I'll show you a slide that has our enrollment pretty much flat. Only really 2 schools had a drop in attendance. That was OBJH and Evergreen. Working to resolve that. Some things you have shifts in certain years. SHS did have a little bit of a drop too, but we're working a little bit more around Evergreen. I think one of the things I hear commonly is like, why don't you just shift the boundaries? I don't think it's as simple as just shifting boundaries for folks. There's a number of families that are really geared towards specific schools. They're invested in their community. Those shifts in enrollment do happen for us, and then also just the location of specific programs. So we have some ideas about those things that are coming up for us. We do continue to take a look at that to best maximize our facilities, and then also, of course, the draw for enrollment. I do again want to highlight some of the successes for Cedar in increasing their enrollment. Choice, I don't think that number necessarily reflects some of the work that we did about having an open doors program. so that we know some of our youth that were not previously enrolled. We had at least 20 students that were not enrolled in any school get enrolled in the Open Doors program at Choice, and has been a really success because we had a number of students graduate last year in connection to that program. So I think that's great. Last thing I got to call out on this slide, so if folks can see the free and reduced percentages, those percentages are consistently dropping. One of the interesting things, because this district overall qualifies for free and reduced lunch for all students, it's a less incentive to go out there and sign up families to qualify for free and reduced lunch. That does drive funding. And so that'll be a new effort to get back on and have us crawl back up and try to do some more recruitment to getting folks signed up, because that will ultimately, it should reflect what is the true accurate number of families that live, according to the government, at or below the poverty line. Okay? This is the historical view at the Shelton School District's enrollment. As you can see, coming out of COVID, it's really been flat. Not really wild changes up and down. 10 or 20 students isn't going to drive any significant changes for us. As I was speaking of the previous slide, by program or by school, it does make some shifts for us. Obviously, even when you have a loss, like a school like OBGH with their loss, that was one teacher out of a comprehensive junior high. It's not the worst. Those are things that do happen on a regular basis, not only here in the Shelton School District, but other school districts. I don't foresee us really increasing our enrollment anytime in the next year or two, but they are starting to cut ground on new developments here. So new housing is coming to Mason County. I'm a cheerleader of that. I know it's been a conversation since I've been here. People really wanted it. And that would be that would have obviously an impact on a number of things here for the district. So it's things that we'll continue to study for, look for, and we'll be ready for as well. For the 24-25 budget, it's around $81 million in revenue. 86.5% of our funding goes towards staffing. You can see up there 22.5% for employee benefits. Classified salaries come to about 20%, and a little over 44% for certificate salaries. Materials, supplies, and purchases are for the rest. That really leaves $11 million. Folks, if you think about all that cost, that really is about a high majority of that $11 million is spent on 4 items. They are fuel, food, insurance, and utilities. That's where most of that money goes to. So, and why is it that the Shelton School District and other districts across the state are having challenges? Well, specifically for us, one of the things is that we have a lack of non-restricted dollars. So the state gives us, out of that $82 million, $44 million are what they call general fund dollars. Those are non-restricted dollars. They expect districts to support all their students with $44 million. That's what that is. And that doesn't account for special education, homelessness, other title programs, multilingual services that we provide here in the district, and also CTE, so a lot of that pathway dollars. CTE is 10% of our budget. That's a lot comparatively to other districts our size or even larger. That's a blessing, but those dollars, all those dollars are restricted, what we call categorical programs. So 44 is not. The other almost half is. And so when you were going back on that previous slide and I say, here, that 11 million, when you have an increase in costs and you're not able to cover that with your general fund dollars, that has to come from either 2 places. Your levy, if you have one, or your general fund. Since I've been here, we haven't had much of a general fund. And when we have a general fund, it's generally been carryover on those restricted dollars. You generally don't spend all of your categorical programs year to year because you really work to have some leftover for some of the programming that you may do the next year, like after school programming, additional supports during the school day, and again, obviously other services like special education. So the levy dollars are shrinking. We have about $7.1 million we draw annually here off of the levy. And so unfortunately, the costs for both staffing and non-staffing are far outpacing our revenue. They're not able to cover that thing. The levy, they think the levy is supposed to cover the gaps that districts have in their funding. Well, you're saying, okay, so again, where are those increases coming from? Well, those increases include special education. So the state gives us money. We have to cover $1.6 million additionally to support special education services. $2.2 million for material supplies and operating costs. Actually, that number, it's higher than that. It's more like $2.8, $2.9 million specifically, because those are 22, 23 numbers. So they've outpaced that. We now spend, I believe, just a little bit over just $930,000 just on water and sewer. That's a lot of money. And then we cover also for transportation, and then well over $1 million for substitutes. That's each year. Those are not funded by those are not funded, and you have to make those things up by your levy. And then if you go to the left, because of inflation and the buying power of your levy, you are reduced by $3.4 million in comparison to 17-18, for at least an $8.5 million reduction in our capacity in dollars. So like again, if you were to take all the things that you were doing in 17-18 and do the exact same things now that you would have, let's just say somehow you could have a time machine, you would actually have to be able to do the same things just with $8.5 million less. So no one wants cuts, none of those services, but you have still to operate with $83 million, $83 million, you have to operate with that amount. So that whatever the services we are, whatever we do, it has to come from the 83. There's no extra money to save the day. It's not to come from somewhere else. We have to operate within that budget. So which are the things that I think most people and most families and staff that you talk to, we are providing a basic education. So which part of the basic are we going to say that the state is forcing us into this situation? This is going on for dozens of districts across the state. This is not unique to the Shelton School District. But as a district, we do have to make those decisions. You still have to operate again back on the budget. So we'll continue to make those decisions. There's still going to be an opportunity for us to cut a lot of non-staffing expenses. We have already done a lot of those moves. We've cut custodial. We've cut staffing out of district office. We've cut down in some of our subscriptions for materials. We still are going to operate and support, obviously, day-to-day operations and day-to-day instruction, but now we have to look at our expenses and make some prudent decisions. We will have another presentation on this coming up at the next board meeting as we, again, look at our ability to think about what we're prioritizing and what we can and cannot afford within those priorities. Moving on to assessment and student performance. Third grade ELA 2 years ago, 25.4% of our third graders met or exceeded grade level expectations on the state assessment for reading and writing. This last year we had 42.5%. If you take and I looked at 4 other districts that are comparable around our free and reduced lunch number, the number of students who identify as Latino, and the number of kids that qualify for multilingual services. There are 4 other districts in this state that look pretty much like us. 3 are over on the other side of the mountains, and 1 is another one that's locally. Also somewhat comparable in size. Doesn't always matter so much, but those other general demographics, their numbers still look in the low 30s for ELA performance. That number is significantly increased due to the effort of our educators, the moves that we have made in a short order of time. That number came after just 2 years of the work we've been doing in the strategic plan for a high quality literacy. That's outstanding. Again, that's 60 kids that get a chance to say, I met or exceeded grade level based on the state assessment for reading and writing. That's outstanding. What a celebration for those families. I'm excited for them, for sure. And so that work will continue. You saw in the school improvement plans by the schools leaders, they were providing, at least at the elementaries, they're looking to match right up to that number and hold on it. I think a lot of that work has to go back to the word work that we were trying to get going and getting our students reading earlier, and those foundational skills will help us continue to boost that number up. So while we have increases in 3rd grade, ELA performance at 7th grade is taking a dip. And so, again, if we get students earlier, that's less intervening needed at the later grades. And specifically around 7th grade, we're talking about OBJH. Marianne and team have identified specific students. They are providing outstanding instruction. They made some switches in their supports. And so they are really gunning for their SIP goal is really around grade 6, but moving that number up for the number of students who meet standard in ELA. 10th grade, just for ELA and also in math, will be a little bit tough because not all students take the state assessment anymore. It's not a part of a graduation requirement, so some of the things that every district kind of struggles with nowadays is looking at student performance numbers. For ELA, a lot of students have already qualified, and they are not required to take that assessment. The state does highly encourage districts to get students to take it. That is just not always the case. So a little bit of a discount at what we look at for both 10th and 11th grade. 10th and 10th and 11th graders do take usually that assessment for the state around whether they're proficient in ELA or math. These are our math scores. We've had a significant jump for grade 3 for math. As I've been saying, when students can read and write at grade level, that gives them a great opportunity in math. If someone has taken the state assessment in math at 3rd grade, you do have to have really strong reading and writing skills. It is critical that you do so. Lots of work to do back at the middle years and also at the high school. Again, you have diminished returns at the percentage of number of students who are taking it at 10th grade. Those students that are coming up in 3rd grade that start meeting it, that allows us to focus more of our resources on additional students who need help to get into grade level. So I will continue to stress, the more we can intervene at earlier grades, the better things will be at the later grades. Attendance has gone up from 81.4% to 81.4 to 84.9 on this last year. We keep seeing a creep in our attendance. I think part of the challenge here for us is that it's down to specific students. About 80% of our students come to school almost every day. The other 20% miss a significant number of days. We're not talking about a few days. I'm talking about 20 plus days of school. We have a lot of students who miss a lot of school in that group. So when we do have kids that don't come, they really don't come. And so back to the school improvement plans and the work that schools are doing, they really are focused on trying to get students to come to school. We've had a number of challenges around that. It's ongoing daily conversations. How can I move this? How can we move resources? We just shifted some resources to work on some attendance, specifically at the secondary level, to try to continue to raise that and engage our students in learning. If they're not here, they're not learning. Speaking of not being here, if we exclude them, they're also not going to be learning. So we've decreased our suspensions and expulsions, as I said, by 71% over the last 2 years. We have 253 state report, we call them state reportables. So those are suspensions. They can be in school or out of school, or exclusions. As I've said before, this number is probably going to start flattening down. I don't think that number is going to move a whole lot now. It's about a normal number for a district our size and need. So That should start to level out. What we are focused on now are office referrals, so really more of your minor incidences, so we can get things earlier, get teaching those pro-social skills, and so also just setting up the environment so that we have less problematic behaviors disrupting the educational process for that student and other students. Disciplines fallen for students with disability. It's still students with disabilities and students who identify as Native American are disproportionate compared to the district average. So we're going to do some more data diving in this. We have a lot more process around this to improve on, specifically to discipline, and again, trying to get to supports. Unfortunately, some of our students with disabilities you have to look at it. They might qualify for additional supports around social, emotional skills. What are we doing to better those services? Because that's a part of their identified disability. By law, we are required to provide services to keep them in school and to also help them progress in those IEP goals. 9th grade on track for graduation, 6 or more credits. This year, we continue to increase. I'm really hoping, I think we're going to get a bump in this one even further. We're really trying to get to 80%, so I like the increase, but I think I really want to get us to accelerate this. There's a lot of challenges for us. We still have a lot of students in 9th grade with D's and F's, and that is a killer for a lot of reasons. Not only just not getting a credit, but it's also just their own ability to have some self-worth around that. Continues to work tirelessly in this area, but I think a number of specific actions. We do case management. We have mentors specifically for targeted youth in 9th grade at all 3 schools, trying to get them over the line, working with their families, getting them tutoring. A very huge effort on the part of our staff to try to get that number to increase. Because again, we know that when they can move on from 9th grade with 6 or more credits, the probability of them graduating on time is significantly improved. Graduation rate, as I mentioned before, we've had a decrease in our graduation rate this last year. I don't know all the reasons why, so if you look through some of the data, specifically, our English learners are ones that took a dip. That's going to be a real big challenge for us. Some of the waivers that were provided before are not going to be provided moving forward by the state in relations to COVID. So the challenge is upon us. Again, I go back to 9th grade on track is really helpful, but we are trying to walk every student through here with access and opportunity. That means graduating on time in 4 years. So we set this in 4 years. It's not 5 years with cohort, it is 4 years. That's how we particularly measure here, in a more rigorous measure. But we want to make sure that we are focused on that. And specifically, I know at SHS they are focused on some of the English learners, and they've actually changed up services for some of our English learners, moving to more co-teaching and moving model specifically for students, getting them more concentrated supports so that we can help get them more credits and to graduate again back on time. That's one of the moves that we have specifically made. Some next steps for us. Of course, re-examine the district's budget, every line item. So we'll be going down every item specific to the budget. What are some moves that we can make? Where can we make either a reduction or to move again back to those restricted dollars to cover some of our expenses that we have? A lot of that usually is staffing. Any kind of mid-year adjustments we have to do based on our data. So we have our assessment windows here in the district. We'll have another one coming up in January. What is it? What kind of moves can we make? We'll be starting our budgeting and staffing process. I really believe that we are really working to avoid a RIF. So I know that's been thrown out there. Our job is to try to take, and so that we don't have any kind of forced reduction in staff. That's what we do want to try to prevent. And I got a lot of hope for that. And like I said, we'll be able to pinpoint specifically what our actions are at the next meeting, since we just closed the books on last year's budget this month. So preparing for summer program, a lot of success from last year's summer program. The research shows if students can take summer program 2 years in a row, so if students can take summer program for 2 years in a row, and it is really addressing state standards, they are 50% more likely to meet state standard in both ELA and math. So we know we want to continue to double down on summer program. We will continue to offer that. And again, one of the facts that I just want to state is we will continue to offer a summer program. We're going to still offer professional because we have restricted dollars. Those restricted dollars by the state are not general fund dollars. We have those dollars that are specific for those activities. They are not going away, those monies, and so those services are not going to go away. The challenges are really about operating costs because we can't use the restricted dollars to pay for all those other huge increases like transportation, substitutes, and obviously some of our utilities as well. In the spring, we'll continue to move forward. Any other shifts we have to make as usual around what professional development we have and any other fiscal moves we have to increase our general fund. So with that, I'll take questions.
All right, thank you. That was a lot of information. Are there questions from the two of you, and then I'll check in? Oh, we'll start here first.
All right, just a couple of questions, but first want to celebrate the third grade scores. And we know ultimately that comes down to teachers implementing the plan. And so thank you, teachers out there for doing that hard work. And it's amazing to see those results so quickly. And celebrating attendance. As we heard the reports from across all schools, attendance being up is a big deal. As you look at that, what is the source of that attendance improvement? Is that just emphasis? Is that multi-leveled? Why are we seeing that increase?
Yeah, and it's a shared issue across the nation. I mean, attendance is an issue for districts all the way across the United States. A lot of things fell off since COVID. Doesn't mean there's not challenges. Yeah. I attribute that to a safe and warm and welcoming environment when you come in, and then also empowering student voice. You know, our high school teachers, I'll give them a huge credit. They are working really hard to limit the lecture and moving to a position where they're doing what we call a mini lesson, trying to keep that to 10 to 12 minutes, engaging kids in part of that initial lesson, and then giving them an opportunity to do some independent work and then pull them aside, do some one-on-one or small group instruction. That's a powerful tool used across the district. That is an engage. Quality, you can't get rid of the relationships that our educators build with their students, and also high quality instruction. That is going to be it. And so when you see, if you feel successful as a student, you're going to want to come to school. That's if good. You feel like your teacher loves you and cares for you, you're going to come to school. And our educators have been working really hard on it, and that's some of that increase. The unfortunate side is still some students just gone too much, and then it's harder to establish sometimes even just those initial relationships if they're just not here.
Yeah, a couple of quick questions around budget. When we see those big numbers, it gets everybody's attention.
Sure.
So I want to ask, and I know you answered it a little bit, ask it again. Are we unique in our situation here struggling with budget? Is this unique to Shelton, or is this happening across the state?
No, and I know some of you, the board directors, there's articles all over. I mean, this is a struggle that is not unique to the Shelton School District. Every school district has their own budget. So our budget is not the same budget as Pioneers or Yelms or Olympia's, right? So they serve different populations, they have different funding sources, and they have different expenses. What's not so unique is the challenges around those 4 areas that I had up there: special education, materials, operational costs, specifically substitutes, and transportation. That is a unified ask that we get increases because those are basic ed expenses, and that they're not, the state funding model, the way it is set up, is not able to adequately fund those things, not only for us, but for all the other districts across the state. Even if they don't have all the way down, districts are automatically burning down their general fund because of those specific expenses. There's no way of covering it.
And continue on that same line, you mentioned district cut a number of positions. Could you just reiterate what that was and how many positions you've cut over this last season?
Sure. You're talking about district office?
Yeah, district office, yeah.
Yeah, so the executive director of teaching and learning, my secretary, also another materials clerk, someone within special education who was reviewing files and some of our compliance activities that we have around that. So we consolidated some of those moves. We had another one in technology. And I think, did I get 5 so far? No, I think I'm on 5, right?
Yeah.
I got one more in my memory. Give me a minute. Trying to think about that last one. The other position. There's one more. Sorry. Special ed up there.
That's okay. So the broader question is, as everybody's trimming, district level is trimming as well?
Yes, and we've made those cuts already, and we also had one in athletics too.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry about the last.
Nope,
last
that's
one.
great.
Sticking with me.
I appreciate it.
Yep. And so, maintenance already cut. We've cut custodians. We've limited some of those things. You just get limited in the number of moves that you can have after that.
2 more quick questions. Number 1, you mentioned it, but I want to hear it one more time. When do we expect to hear kind of a plan how we're going to move forward with this budget?
Well, because we just closed the books this month, and it's a fluid situation, other districts are also in the same, like here it is, it moves fast. The next board meeting, we will be presenting a plan to how we're going to move forward to specifically cover our gaps and get us back. So a little bit of that plan comes out when Clinton gets up here and presents.
Okay.
Just around apportionment, almost 25% of our revenue comes the last 2 months. We're looking to flatten. That's one of our moves that we're making right up front. In addition to things like a budget freeze, hiring freeze, those are things you just have to do to stabilize so costs are just not going right out the door.
Last one's quick.
Yep.
If I'm listening online or I'm in here, that's a lot of information.
It
If I
is.
have additional questions, who do I ask?
Yeah, so we're going to have, we've built out a website specific to the budget. It will post here this week so that it gives some general information, very similar to the information in this presentation. Other districts, I'm borrowing the work of other districts just to kind of reiterate, is a common theme. So we'll get that up there. And then we'll have also where people can generally draw questions so that we can feed and answer things the best we can. And we'll have an FAQ too as time goes on and build out those kind of what are the general questions we're getting, and so we can post that up and try to answer those up front and so people can get that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Matt and Lauren, maybe Matt first. Do you have any questions or comments?
Not a lot. James actually asked most of them. As far as the district office goes, the number that we bounced around, I think when I first got elected, was about 8% of your budget's up there. We were sitting at about 4 at that point. We are already so far under administrative and support staff compared to the rest of anybody. How much more can we cut before we start seeing that change the environment of the classroom? Teachers need to be supported. The programs all need to be supported. I know everybody wants to just cut the head off, but at what point do we need to start looking other places?
I think I'm
that's
hearing
my only
that, and I
question.
think the question is, all right, so what's the difference between district office and then also back out in the schools? We try to hold the schools as harmless as possible. I mean, there's ultimately, the services, one of my core values is the classrooms where the magic's at, right? Like those are the direct services students are getting. Unfortunately, all the things that get built out for high quality professional development, any kind of guidance, we have compliance activities, the hiring things, this budget things, the payroll, all those elements and activities have to also be done, coordination of events, communications, it goes on, right? And so we've swapped out and moved all the things in district office to about the highest degree I can. I've probably got a couple more, but that means just a direct cut in services. That'll be a direct cut in ability to support personnel. When you're sitting in your classroom, sometimes you're like, hey, I need help. I made that call. We want to be able to have the right person at the right other end to be responsive. Minimizing some of those things will be good. I think it can be actually be quite minimal if we get on this early, but the longer time goes on, the more we're accruing debt and the further we go into the hole. So I think, Director Wielander, our hope is to minimize it really to a minimal level for the impact back at the schools, as long as we act more prudently now than later, because as you can see, and he's going to have the best graph, if the debt just keeps going, you're climbing, then you're going to have to cut more into the future. Cutting that off and trying to maintain where we're at while we get through this bump is going to be the move we're trying to make. So again, we don't get to, that's my ultimate goal, is to not do that. Some through attrition, we've already done those moves. Some is, again, moving and sliding resources that we have for restricted to cover some of the direct services, because we do have Title I schools to provide that for them. So,
Otherwise, thank you.
yep.
All right, Lauren, do you have any questions or comments?
I just really appreciate this presentation and the questions my fellow school board directors have asked. Thank you for focusing on the three major issues really impacting our funding at the Washington State School Director Association conference last weekend. You know, a lot of the presentations were on funding, and we're not the only school district facing this issue. The costs are far outpacing revenue and what the district can get from the state. The governor released his letter stating that the next 4 years there's a $12 to $15 billion deficit for education. I just really appreciate all the efforts that the district has made and how much we're trying to lessen the impact that this is going to have on students. And just thank you for providing this overview to the community.
All right, thank you, Lauren. Becky?
Well, you've answered all the questions, and I'm sure we'll get into the nitty-gritty stuff later. I have some comments on the ELA program. Recently, I was in every school in Mason County doing vision and hearing screening. We did it last year. Last year, we had to have an interpreter in the room with us. This year, we did not, because all the kids, except for maybe 2 in one of the schools, they're probably new students, understood everything we were saying. So I was very impressed. So I do see this. I witnessed it for myself. And also attendance, it's tough, because I know you have a very diligent truancy officer who goes above and beyond what she needs to do to keep these kids in school. And I just don't know what else the school district can do besides what they're doing. That's all I have.
Yeah, I'll just add, attendance is tough. I mean, I having to go to homes and knock on doors myself and try to advocate with parents or guardians to help me get your student to school, and the student's like, I don't want to go. You're working into a tough area, but I think, again, I go to early intervention. The more success kids can have earlier on, the more we can build relationships with them and their experiences are positive. That ultimately is going to help out in the long run, because by the time they get to high school, if they have not been successful and they've not had necessarily the relationships that we want them, I know one of the comments from one of our community members around enrichment and activities, those are really important things. Those are all the ingredients for trying to prevent it from happening, which is, our best stance.
Okay, so I have a few questions too.
Please.
And I did attend the WASDA meeting last week, and I went to every single financial seminar that they listed in every session. They were packed. And every speaker was an example of a school district in the state that has either gone through this or is going through it right now, or anticipates that they will be going through it next year. So the fact that this is affecting so many school districts across the whole state, to me, means that there is a serious funding issue. It's not just mistakes that are being made in each individual school district on budgets. It's much bigger than that. And as they outlined that, that became very, very apparent. So one of the questions that I have is a clarification from you too, because you're talking about restricted dollars. And restricted dollars we cannot use to cover the general fund or, basic education budget. But when we have restricted dollars going, for instance, to special education services that run up quite a bit, we still have to pay for that. And so then where does that money come from? That comes then from
The levy.
and then the general fund.
Yeah, you would have to pay for it. There's always been a shortage in special
Right,
almost all
because
districts
that
have
was
a
one of the
shortage.
biggest ones. We're talking about the
Absolutely.
materials and operating costs. We're talking about special education services. We're talking about the substitute costs that end up being bigger. And the levy dollars do not go as far because we were all capped on our levies not too long ago. Our Mason County passed a levy, it wasn't the last one, the one before that, and we were then told that we couldn't collect that amount of money that we did because that was during the time period that they reduced the amount that everybody could. So even though our community said yes to it, we were then capped on what that could be. So they've seen some of this coming for a while, but you just couldn't really anticipate a lot of this because of inflationary costs. And some of these costs are not like your household budget that you can count on every single month. You don't know exactly how many teachers are going to be sick. You don't know how much your special education costs are going to overrun what you've been given. So that is part of the issue that's affecting every single one of those school districts that was in the room. And so it was very enlightening to hear what many of them have gone through. None of them were happy to see as many of us sitting in the room as we were trying to hear about some of that. The other thing is the whole prototypical model, because you've mentioned cutting custodians a couple of times. We're not funded for the amount of custodians that we actually need to have, period, or nurses, or many other things. So the model that the state is already funding us on is not funding what is provided as good services for our students, not even great services. So we don't get the funding for that. So there has been a drain that has been slowly going on. These were all things that were definitely highlighted during that. I know that through WASDA, they're definitely advocating at the state level. But as Lauren mentioned, the state is going to be facing some budget reductions as well, too. So I don't know what we're going to see necessarily out of that. I appreciate you talking about building a budget FAQ. That is something that I would like to see, that we can keep a running communication with our community in an easy-to-access place for them to see the information as we work through this. And I think that was the other thing that, I really appreciate getting the State of the District plan. I think there's a lot of things to celebrate and a lot of things to be excited about. And I see many educators out there tonight. I appreciate the work that you all do in helping our students succeed and achieve. And then there's obviously challenges, and we have to face those, and we will. And I'm hoping that we can all work together as a board, as a community, and as a school district to work through those, because the students are important, and what we can do with that is very important. So I guess I ended up with more of a speech than questions. But it was a lot of reflection on what I saw last week at the WASDA meeting. It is definitely in one of those cycles where things are going to be challenging. But I appreciate that. Are there any other questions or comments from board members at this time, or students? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And then I guess we move into the consent agenda, which we've got 3 items listed under that. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, say no. All right, hearing none, the consent agenda has passed. All right, now we're going to get into discussion and action items. We've got 7.01, the proposed resolution number 24-05, authorizing an apportionment advance. And we've got our new Finance Director, Clinton Sherman, who will be speaking to us.
I like the handheld mic idea. Good evening, directors. One thing I wanted to show as an explanation of what this resolution does for us is this graph right here. As Superintendent Jesse said earlier, the landscape in K-12 finance is really rough right now, and part of that complexity is what's called the apportionment schedule, and that schedule is how we receive our money. So the school district's enrollment generates our funding, but we don't get that even 1/12 of that each month, right? We don't get 8.33% of those dollars every month. We get these peaks and valleys, which is this blue, is this a laser pointer here? This blue line, all right, that blue line on that top set of graphs is the apportionment schedule. So you can see that it kind of peaks and valleys throughout the year. And what we're asking, what this authorization enacts is to smooth out that revenue. So we'll get, instead of getting about 25% of our funding at the very end of the year, we'll take that at the beginning and it'll help flatten out this roller coaster of revenue and keep our cash balance positive throughout the year. So this is what that mechanism is, and it's one of the first steps we're doing financially for the budget. Any questions? I know it's kind of a lot. It's a more complex thing than that, but I wanted to keep it relatively short.
So you're taking the bigger portion at the beginning of the year. Is that going to be a shortfall?
Yes.
At
So
the
we had
end?
a negative cash balance in September. That requires taking a small loan from the county that we pay interest on. And so instead of doing that and paying that interest month to month, we can go out and request that the state gives us our revenue that will be owed in July and August and receive it now. And so that'll help right the cash flow for the rest of the year.
And what about July and August? Are you going to have sufficient?
Yes, because it's, I mean, you get, like I said, I think it's 22.5% you receive in July and August. And so you're only allowed to do 10% as a maximum, and we're doing a little less than that to right the cash flow for the rest of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Great question.
And you're saying that that's done without accruing interest?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So when you take a registered warrant from the county, it's, you pay interest until you pay it back. With this, there is a little bit of interest, but instead it's what you don't pay. So as you use the dollars, there's no interest. But if you have those dollars, they're also gaining interest for us, and so we turn around and give that money back to the state. So we can't earn money on having that cash earlier, is what it effectively does. Yeah, these are all, yeah, it's a complex thing, so it's great questions. Keep them coming. Love it.
I didn't know that there was a loan with the county that interest is being paid on. Is that what you said?
Well, you book what's called a registered warrant, and so then you register your warrants with the county, and then as apportionment comes in, it covers those. And that's normally what happens. In prior years, you would have had a higher cash balance and not needed that same mechanism. But as it got tighter and tighter, that's just what was necessary.
Lauren or Matt, do either of you have questions or comments?
No, it actually made perfect sense. So thank you.
Okay.
I motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to approve the proposed resolution number 24-05, authorizing an apportionment advance. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the resolution has passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that moves us into board member comments. I'm going to start with those of you online. Matt, would you like to make some closing comments?
Sure. First of all, sorry I missed the meeting tonight. I would much rather be there than here, despite everything. I guess the one thing that I want to say is when you look at what's going on right now statewide, you've got a lot of people coming after administrations in every district. With not, the torches and pitchforks, bad or misinformation. There's a lot of agendas out there. And I guess my big ask of the public in general is calm down and let us work through this, please. We're doing the best that we can. The problem is not really locally. If you look at it, there's a lot of unfunded mandates out there, and we still have a constitutional obligation to provide a public education for everybody. So this is a problem for the government. Less than 10% of our budget is based on local taxes. And so when you look at all of the other things out there, the programmatic dollars and those sorts of things, that's where our problems are really coming from, as I understand it all. So I see the cuts that are being made, and I see the shots to the chin that people are taking, and I appreciate everybody's hard work. Thank you for the continued sacrifices in the head office, and thank you, Jesse, for keeping this thing going in the right direction, and look forward to being on the other end of this thing at some point. So otherwise, thanks, be nice to everybody, and I'll talk to you when I get back home.
All right, thank you, and safe travels back home. Lauren, do you have any comments this evening to close us out?
No, I just want to thank everybody for being there tonight. Sorry, I'm sick. I didn't want to spread the germs. Really appreciate Clinton Sherman. Thank you for your presentation and just coming into the district and really just running with everything that we've been throwing at you, and the school district overview was really helpful and informative. Thank you, Wyeth. Want to lift us back up to that evergreen promise and just how great that is, and make sure you reach out and ask for information if you need it. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you. We hope you feel better soon. Director Dale.
Yeah, just a couple of quick comments. I got to talk to a very proud dance team mom today, and they, I guess, showed up really well at their first competition. And I share that. There's probably 1,000 of those stories in our district, and it is a complicated world out there, but I love those reports. So if anybody ever wants to tell me good things about their kids, please send them my way. That is a lot more fun than some other things. Number two, just want to give a shout out to our teachers as they teach right before Thanksgiving and then head into the Christmas holiday. Being married to an educator for 27 years, I know how squirrely it gets, and so thank you all for doing that extra effort and not wasting those minutes. Finally, if you don't know, 3 of us from the district got to go to training this last week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and into Saturday. And if school board training sounds fun, it really is 4 or 5 hours of statistics and the ways you need to uphold the law. And I share that because it is complicated out there. Schools are complicated, and your school board directors are giving up their work time, their personal time, family time, voluntarily to go try to do a better job because they care about the students in this community. And I really want to give a big shout out to Carrie and to Lauren. A lot of hours learning so we can come back and do a good job. And one more thing coming back, there are about 1,200 school board directors out there, and you get to sit at tables with people, and all around this state are just common people serving their community. It's very not glamorous, and they are working really hard. And sometimes you need to remember that as you get the politics of it and the complications of it. I just want to say there are parents and community members and people serving all around the state, and it was really encouraging. So thank you to all of those people as well.
All right, Becky.
So the first thing is Shelton Promise. Not sold on it. I have some concerns about it. On the brighter side, in Wyatt's Friday update, he showed us a picture of a poster that helps students with problem solving. If they get into a situation where they're angry, frustrated, it gives them tips. I love that. I read the updates that are emailed to us, and at Evergreen, the parents are really helping the kids read at home. They're telling them the importance of attendance and reading at home, the same as Bordeaux. And Bordeaux just had a food drive in which the food was distributed to other Bordeaux students. Kudos, kudos. The students from Bordeaux have been celebrating their achievements for being safe, respectful, and responsible students, and being honored by having a sports day tomorrow. I missed the Cedar. I intended to go last night and something came up, but I went last year and was very impressed. That's why I really wanted to go this year. You guys do a great job there. It seems like they have 80% that participated in college visits on campus, so that's great. A lot of good information in Cedar newsletter. They're trying to encourage kids to prepare for college, giving them all these opportunities to prepare to go to college. You guys both had very good reports. I like your Thanksgiving celebrations, and I will hopefully can come to the winter celebration at Choice. Really appreciate your guys' work. Thank you.
All right, lots of great board member comments tonight. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for the presentations that we had. There was a lot of information that was given, so I imagine that people will be digesting a lot of that. I just have 2 quick comments. Congratulations to all of the students that were inducted into the National Honor Society last week. Yeah. That is always a big honor, and they do such a wonderful job with that ceremony. And then also congratulations to all of the students who are finished up their finals yesterday and today, and they get a chance to close it out and I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving break with family and good food, or just doing something fun that you enjoy. We do not have an executive session tonight, so if there is a motion to adjourn, we can do that.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Doesn't sound like there's anyone opposed, so thank you all. We are adjourned.